Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Happy New Year, I hope. But the start of the new year can be hard for some folks, myself very much included. It's still cold out, the holidays are over, but lucky for you, some of us here at CityCast DC love and thrive in January energy. So today on CityCast DC, I'm here with my colleagues Priyanka Tilve and Julia Karen to give you everything you need to make January 2025 your best yet, no matter what's happening in the world. Today's Thursday, January 2nd. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC is talking about. So, Julia, Priyanka, thank you for being here. As I said up top, I am one of the people who does not always love January. I find it to be kind of a slog, but I think for folks listening, you still have to go out and make the best of the month. Like, it's good to be able to put these guides together so folks can really do something other than rot on their couch in January when the urge is so strong.
To be clear, there will be plenty of couch rotting in addition to the stuff that we do, but
I think after the holidays, it's really easy to just hide indoors. You might be a little bit socially tapped out, but if you don't have things to look forward to as well, then it gets dreary, like emotionally dreary. And there's also a lot happening in the second half of the month that maybe the first half of the month you can veg and then the second half you can go. But if you don't plan for it, you're going to feel FOMO. And we do these guides to help listeners not feel FOMO.
Yeah, the FOMO is real, especially after the holidays when you might be, feeling burnt out, tapped out, but you're still seeing your friends on Instagram living it up.
Yeah. I also think that this particular January, there is like a little bit of a cloud hanging over the city.
Is something going on?
can't pinpoint it.
Did not vote for President Trump, overwhelmingly voted for Kamala Harris, and now Trump is coming to town. So I feel like the inauguration is something that's like hanging over people a little bit, but there are a lot of other things happening that you can do instead. So we are here to provide the recs.
So are there things that y'all do every January that's like, it is not January in DC until I do this thing?
Ooh, yes. So January is my birthday. Capricorn Hive, rise up, baby. It is our time to shine.
When is your birthday?
January 10th.
Exciting. What are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm getting a drink with some friends at a bar. But every year, typically I'll do that. And then the other thing I do is I go to a Capitals game with my brother. That's like our tried and true tradition. It's like one of the only games I go to all year. I try to squeak in a couple of Washington Capitals games. This is the NHL team. But yeah, it's my time to like splurge on some tickets, go see the team in person. They're doing really well this year. They're like one of the top teams in the league. So,
really?
Yeah, the time is now to go see them. Literally, the way I got into ice hockey was my dad took me for like my 8th or 9th birthday. And I was like, I want to do that. Back when Capital One Arena was the MCI Center. It will always be the MCI Center to me.
Oh, I still call it MCI Center.
Oh, yeah, baby.
People will be like, what? I'm like, MCI Center.
That or Verizon Center, baby. It will always be MCI Center. And I was like, yeah, like I want to do that.
Well, is there any way that you want listeners to celebrate you during your birthday month? Is there anything anybody listening can do to make you feel celebrated?
One thing you could do that would bring me tons of joy for my birthday would be to become a member of CityCast DC. Come on, I had to sneak it in there. It's $8 a month. You get extra content like Kayla's events guide, which is going to be stacked this January because, as we've said, everyone gets FOMO in January.
Kayla is our newsletter editor. For those of you who don't know, she writes our Hey DC daily newsletter. And yeah, this weekly events guide as well.
Yeah, she gets you a weekly events guide that you get before anybody else, which is kind of nice. You get surprise recordings, little extras. Also, you get ad-free listening. So again, $8 a month. That's like one drink at my birthday.
Just go to membership.citycast.fm and become a member to celebrate Julia this January.
With the Caps games, why is it good to go in January? Like, Are they at a certain point in the season in January, or yeah, what's the reason?
The season typically ends in like April-ish if they don't make the playoffs. It'll end in May if they do make the playoffs. They're slated to make the playoffs this year. They're like top of the Metro Division. Like, it's all good. I like going in the middle of January because I find that this is when the team is starting to ramp up towards the playoffs and have like finally hit their stride. In October, when they like start, they're trying to feel each other out. It's a new team. Like, the vibes are wonky. But right now in January is like they're starting to play some of their best hockey. So if you want to see good games, also if you want to see like good matchups like they play, like the Maple Leafs, who are like tops in the Atlantic, the short answer is it is a good time to see a winter sport at its peak, is my view.
I love that. That's very convincing. I'm not a big sports girly, as listeners of the pod would know, but I would do that. I would go to a Caps game this January.
It's a good time. January is kind of like, it reaffirms my love for the sport of hockey, is what I'm getting at with that.
Well, Priyanka, do you have things? Like, what's your January go-to thing that's not January until you do this?
Yeah. So, well, growing up for me, we used to always go skiing MLK weekend. And as an adult, in recent years, I have decided to try and reestablish that tradition. So I am going skiing MLK weekend this year. That happens to be inauguration weekend as well. So I know a lot of people trying to get out of town. I mean, even if you're not into skiing or snowboarding, going away to one of these resort areas is really nice over a long weekend. Like, even if you're just going to curl up in the lounge with hot chocolate while your friends go out and ski, or if you're just going to sit by the fire with a book, you stay in a cabin, like it's really nice vibes. My favorite place to go in the area is Snowshoe Mountain. It's only about a 4-hour drive from DC. And the last time I rented a car from the service called Kite Car Rental, which allows you to pick up in Union Station, so you don't even have to go all the way to the airport to rent. And yeah, it was just really good snow, really beautiful location. If you go with a bunch of friends, a 4-hour car ride is actually a really fun distance for a road trip. And, you know, we were blasting music and singing along the whole way. So that's Snowshoe Mountain. They have a lot of ski in, ski out accommodation as well. I've not done that yet, but I do want to try it. So that would be my top rec.
Where is Snowshoe? Is it like in West Virginia or like
Yes.
Maryland or like, okay.
Yes, West Virginia. And then there's Seven Springs Mountain Resort, which is also not too crazy far away. It's only 3.5 hours. Also known for having good terrain parks and like really nice facilities at the base lodge. That one's in Pennsylvania in Somerset County. And then if you're the kind of person who like really doesn't want to drive too far away and just want like a really short trip, an easy to reach mountain, my cousin's family goes to Whitetail every year. It's about an hour and a half away. Sometimes they have to make their own snow. So, you know, like take that with a grain of salt. It's not always the best. It's in Pennsylvania, but it is close by and really good for kids is what I've heard. Like they have really good lessons for kids. It's a great place to learn how to ski, even if you're not a kid. And it's got more of a laid back vibe. I think like Snowshoe feels, though they do have lessons and you can learn to ski there, the vibe of it is like more for people who have been skiing or snowboarding for a while. Whitetail has more of that beginner vibe if you're new to it. So that's my rec. We also actually are coming out with a winter getaways episode later this month. So if you need other suggestions for trips to go on over MLK weekend, we've got that for you coming out just next week. But that's my thing to do every January. Go on a trip over MLK weekend. It's also something to look forward to, again, to stave off that like post-holiday blues feeling.
Definitely. And even if you're not a skier, going on a friend's ski trip can still be, I don't ski, but I've been on a couple of friends' ski trips and I get cozy in the lodge and drink lots of hot chocolate and it's still a good time.
Yeah, no, it's a great way to bond with people. Bridget, what do you do every January that's like, it's January now, let's do it?
Oh my gosh. Well, mine is not as celebratory or fun as yours. It's more of a like practical, just to keep my, vibe right, is I start getting very intentional about being outside to get sunlight specifically. So I wish my thing was as fun as y'all's, but it really is like come January, if I am not going for a walk, even a short walk in the park every day by a certain time to get some sunlight, I am like not myself. And so I sort of get very intentional about taking short hikes in the park just to sort of try to keep my mental health in check. It's just hard for me. Like the days are so short and they're so cold and it's so easy to not go out. So if I don't get intentional about it come January, it's not going to happen. And then I'm a mess until around March.
I think that is so smart, Bridget. Like that is a rec I am definitely taking to heart. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have a dog, and I can tell you, having to get up at 8 in the morning and walk my dog in the cold seems like kind of a big lift, but then I do it and I'm like, wow, like I feel better. Like I've gotten a little vitamin D, I've gotten my legs moving a little bit, my brain is a little more awake. There's definitely something to like walking in nature outdoors, even when it's kind of chilly and gross.
You will never regret a short walk in the sunshine. Never. Having car problems? Well, with Rhoda, getting them fixed is as easy as ordering takeout. They'll come pick up your car for free, do any repair or maintenance needed, and return it right to your driveway. They'll even give you a complimentary video inspection of your car so you can see what needs to be done. Perfect for those of us that maybe aren't so car savvy. Book your appointment online at roda.com. And lucky for you, CityCast listeners get a 20% discount on any service for up to $100 off. Just use the code CityCast20. So Priyanka, you were mentioning the second half of January can feel a little bit stacked because there's so much going on. I know Kayla's got a zillion recs of things to do in January. What are you looking forward to this January? Any events you've got on the docket?
Yeah, so this one's a little out of left field, but I was looking at Sixth and I's calendar. Sixth and I is a historic synagogue, but it's also like a cultural center, event space, and they put on a lot of really amazing events, especially book talks and live tapings. One of the times that I went there, they had like a donut tasting event.
Yes.
Yeah, that was like fun because you got to eat a lot of donuts, but what I really loved about it was how community focused it was. Like their whole goal was to encourage people to talk to strangers at their tables and make new friends. And so I wanted to look at what they had coming up this January. On January 27th at 7 p.m., they're hosting Brooke Shields. She's coming out with a new book that's all about aging gracefully. It's called Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Get Old. And she basically writes about her personal experience about what it means to be a woman growing older in the limelight. She was a child actor and model. I recently watched Hulu has a 2-part docuseries about her.
Pretty Baby?
Pretty Baby.
I read the book. Wait, hold on. Do you think people listening don't know who Brooke Shields is? I feel very old.
If you're too young to know Brooke Shields just as Brooke Shields, she's also in a random episode of Friends where she goes on a date with Joey, where she thinks that Joey is actually his soap opera character, Dr. Drake Ramore, and she acts total creepy, crazy stalker. But Brooke Shields is a once mega famous child actress and then comedic actor.
The reason why I think this event is so exciting and interesting is because she was a child actress and she was like kind of an early child actress where her thing was that she was very young, but they played up her sex appeal despite the fact that she was a minor. And so definitely
Weird.
is someone who has to grapple with what that means. The fact that she's now speaking about this and speaking about what it means to age gracefully as a woman in the public eye, I think is pretty interesting. So like, I don't think people should know who she is just because she's mega famous, but it also fits into like why it's important for her to be taking this kind of public, stance on this issue now. I think it's really cool.
One of her previous books was also about her experience with postpartum depression. Like one of the things I really respect about Brooke Shields is that she has been so vocal about all of the various ways that she has been through the ringer and in the public eye through it all and how she's dealt with it. And she's just been very vulnerable and open. And I think Brooke Shields is an icon and an inspiration. And so I think it'd be really cool to go to this event.
Oh my God, how have we not talked about that we both love Brooke Shields?
Yeah, CityCast DC is now just a Brooke Shields fan appreciation podcast. I don't make the rules.
Priyanka and I can host that.
Yeah, exactly.
100% we're in. So yeah, that's happening again, January 27th, 7 p.m. It costs $45 to attend and you get a copy of the book, a signed copy of the book, I should say, with that price. But there is also a virtual option available that is cheaper. So yeah, support Brooke Shields. That's what I'm doing. What about you guys?
So for folks who listened to our CityCast 6 episode, you might remember that we were giving a lot of love to the dance DJ collective, super fun queer group Flower Factory. Well, they're having an event at Flash Thursday, January 9th, 2025.
Let's go.
And I just think when we were talking about it on CityCast 6, we were talking about how like fun and energetic and transformative and inclusive it felt. And so if you were listening and thought, that is something that I want to be part of, well, now is your chance because they're doing a big event, Flash, January 9th. Get your tickets early. That's only $10. They'll have a second release for $20. Knowing Flash, they usually will have a third release. It's like, oh, we're out of tickets. Just kidding. Now they're $30. But so get them soon because their stuff always sells out.
Yeah, that's God. I mean, I'm not much of a clubber, but like that's the day before my birthday. Ooh,
you should
might
go.
You might convince me to go. It might happen.
I'm also not big on clubbing in my 30s now, but like, I'm not that you can't club in your 30s. I just, I'm not doing it as much as I used to. But the discussion that you guys had on the CityCast 6, which is our end of year awards, about Flower Factory really made me want to go to one of their events. So maybe January 9th, I'll be there.
Well, I also have a little bonus event happening at Flash, which is Horse Meat Disco. Now, this is for like, if you are someone who doesn't go to clubs a lot, Flower Factory will be a good starting place. If you are a certified club rat, Horse Meat Disco is for you. I have been to a couple of their events. So according to Flash's website, Horse Meat Disco is a DJ collective that has commonly been dubbed, quote, gay disco Christmas. That is exactly what I would say
Oh my
it
God.
is. I have never seen more people shirtless in my life. If this sounds like something that you would want to do, I'm right there with you. But I will say, like, this is a black diamond slope of nightclub experiences. I'll say that.
I love a sports metaphor, and that is, I feel like, 5 tiers above what I need when I go clubbing, but I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, so it's happening January 11th. They've got their third release tickets for $50. The first and second releases are sold out. But yeah, I have been to a couple of Horse Meat Discos. It is a wild time. That's all I can tell you.
Very intriguing. I don't know. Maybe I'll go to the Flower Factory one and then see if I've got it in me.
Yeah, ease in.
Yeah.
Go bunny slope straight to the double black diamonds. That's how I view it.
That's how you
Just
learn.
commit. Exactly.
What about you, Julia?
Okay, so this event is actually hosted by a friend of mine. Her name is Rebecca Graham. She recently wrote a book called Dear Miss Perkins, a story of Frances Perkins' efforts to aid refugees from Nazi Germany. And Frances Perkins was the first woman in the cabinet ever. She's a Mount Holyoke grad. Go Mount Holyoke. She was the Secretary of Labor in one of FDR's cabinets. And she did this during the Nazi Germany regime. And the book that Rebecca writes is all about these letters that she received from Jewish refugees who were looking for help in America at a time when they were being persecuted. And basically, it kind of goes into all of this research and interesting stuff about how she worked sort of around quotas and restrictive immigration laws and like tons of anti-Semitism and isolationism to find like creative ways to work within a system. And I feel like during a time when we're going to have to find creative ways to work within a system, this could be very inspiring for people. So she is going to be at Politics in Prose on Connecticut Avenue on January 26th. It's from 5 to 6 p.m. She is in conversation with Elizabeth Griffith. Griffith did research on Elizabeth Cady Stanton, a suffragist. So I think it'll be a very interesting, fascinating conversation. A little more serious as opposed to like fun disco parties or going to see the Caps or going skiing. But again, creative ways to work within limits that are set by people. Highly recommend. Also, as someone who got a pre-ordered copy of my friend's book, it's very good and you should read it. So there is that.
And I think especially as we're sort of going into this dark time, I'll say, looking for a little bit of light, looking to history, I think is so important because when we find ourselves in these social or political climates that feel so hopeless, our ancestors also felt hopeless. Our ancestors were also dealing with stuff that felt really hard, and they found ways to push through. And so I really think like looking to history can really be grounding in moments where it feels really scary and overwhelming.
Yeah, I also really like Politics and Prose book events generally because I feel like they are community events. I think people who go there are excited to meet new people and make new friends through book talks or whatever. And so especially for something like this that is about learning to work within a system, you're going to have a bunch of like-minded people there that might help you get through this tough time together. Like maybe you can inspire each other. Maybe you can commiserate with each other, whatever you need.
Anyways, yeah, again, that's Rebecca Brenner Graham. Her book is Dear Miss Perkins, Connecticut Avenue, Politics and Prose, 5 to 6 p.m., January 26th. The event is free.
Okay, so how can folks be making the best of this time? You've got events, we've got things that we're doing. What else we got to help folks make the best of January?
All right. So my big tip for January, as someone who has a birthday in January and knows that it's circle back in the new year time for everyone and their, mother, right, is do not overbook yourself. Pick like one event a week, space them out, make sure it's something you really want to go to or really like. Everyone wants to see everyone all at once. You're coming back from the holidays and it can get really overwhelming really, really quickly. Give yourself some grace. Pick like maybe one event a week or something, maybe two if you're really an extrovert. I'm not. I'm kind of an introvert. And really pace yourself in January. You could do all the same stuff in February mostly.
I think that's a really strong tip. My tip is to make the most of not just January, but the rest of the year ahead. Take the time now to look at theater and venue calendars for the whole year so that you don't feel FOMO later. I'm a big January new energy kind of person. So I have that burst of energy in the first few weeks and I just want to use that to look ahead. A lot of big artists or theater shows or whatever, they will have already booked out what their plans are for 2025. So they will already be on the calendars. It's the worst thing in the world to come May and realize that a show that you really wanted to see was happening and you just didn't realize because you didn't take the time to look ahead of time. So for example, I was looking at some of our major venues. This one's a little bit of a joke, but maybe there's a big Rebecca Black fan out there. I don't know. She's coming to the 930 Club on March 30th. I didn't realize she was still touring, but if you want to buy that ticket, now is the time. Franz Ferdinand is coming to the Anthem in April, as is Snow Patrol. If you're more into some heavier, more intense music, Papa Roach and Rise Against are touring together. That's at the Anthem as well on September 16th. Legally Blonde, the Broadway, is coming to Kennedy Center in June, and tickets go on sale at the end of January. So if you want to get the specific seats you want for the best price, January is the month to do it. So that's my tip.
As you were just saying that, I was like, ooh, I should check to see who's coming. And I'm scrolling through 930 Club and I'm like, oh, wait, they're coming. That's already sold out in February already. Yeah, this is a good tip. Don't get FOMO. Don't hear about it on Instagram. Look now.
Agreed.
My tip for the month is not really a tip. It's more of a PSA. If you live in DC, but you're from Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Midwest, and we get a snow in DC, listen, we know it snows where you're from. We know when it snows in DC, the city shuts down, yada, yada, yada. We've heard it. You don't need to say it. We all know it. You don't need to say it. We don't want to hear it. You're in Washington, DC now. We're going to get one little snow and everyone's going to freak out. The city's going to shut down. We know that it would be business as usual in Madison, Wisconsin. We know. You don't need to say it. That's a little PSA from me to you.
As someone who is the child of people from Rochester, New York and Boston, Massachusetts, I feel personally attacked by this PSA.
How often does your family be like, oh, this would be nothing in Boston? It's like, we know. It would be nothing in Boston. We know.
My parents are big on if you're freaking out about driving in the snow, just don't do it. You're allowed to have your freak out over the snow. Just, don't drive in it. That's the rule.
Juliet, Priyanka, thank you so much for being here. I will stay off of the snow and the icy roads. I will not be that person with their hazards on annoying everybody.
Good to see you, Bridget.
Good to see you, Bridget.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. And if you enjoyed the show, text your friend who cannot drive in the snow or the friend that won't shut up about how it snows in Boston. We know. We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then.